Hey YouTube, I'm Dylan,
I'm Ryan.
and today we are going to be discussing Kendrick Lamar's album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, months later.
Yeah.
So first thing we want to talk about was some of the highs on the album, because God knows there is a lot of them. This release was highly anticipated, as all of you guys know. The build-up was insane with the website and all the secret files and all that junk that he was putting out. But some of the main album highlights we thought were, first of all, we should probably talk about N95, probably the hardest song on the album if we're talking about, like, sheer, just, like, headbanging ability. Yeah.
I think, it's probably one of my favorites, because I like music that I can put on the background, and just, listen to. I think that's definitely up there for me, if it's not the top, but...
What did you think of how Melodic Blue kind of played into, especially this song, but the rest of the album as a whole?
I liked it. I don't know. I thought it was interesting, but
because that song definitely has that Melodic Blue style to it.
That's true.
It reminds me a lot of Trademark USA by Baby Keem off that album, personally. But it also kind of gives off the same vibe as Damn did, which you don't really see on the rest of this album as much, which I thought was a drawback at first. But I feel like overall the growth from Damn to here is insane.
Yeah, it comes into its own. It's not trying to replicate another album that he did.
I was trying when I picked up this album, I was originally expecting something like Damn. So once I heard N95, I was like, oh, we're in the groove of things. And then you listen to the rest of the album, and it's that's not the same thing at all. So it has a lot going for it in terms of originality, and also just kind of how open it is about Kendrick's mental health. What did you think of United in Grief, the title track?
I like that one a lot. I think that's probably my third favorite song on the album, I'd say, probably.
That's fair. That's fair. I also wanted to get a chance to talk about Father Time with Sampha, the Sampha feature.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's really good.
Issue I have with Sampha on this album is that there is literally not enough of him. I would have killed for another song with him on it, because he compliments Kendrick so well. I feel like that song kind of is this album. If we're comparing this album to The Life of Pablo, this is Saint Pablo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's this is the version of, or this is Saint Pablo for this album, if that makes sense. Other than that, I also want to get a chance to talk about how that song in particular really kind of talks about how Kendrick was raised from, he was raised on the streets basically. He was taught by his father and the rest of his family to trust nobody other than your immediate family, and it kind of presents to the toxic masculinity side of living in the struggle, which makes sense to me. He just gets very in depth with that, and it really shows how Kendrick's attitude has been over the years and what shaped that. Rich Spirit. What did you think about Rich Spirit?
That one, I don't remember as well.
That's the Bitch I'm Attractive one.
Oh, yeah. I like that one. I thought that was pretty
I felt if we had to talk about, seriously good, mellow songs on the album, that's definitely up there.
Yeah.
The mellow songs, which there is a lot of on this album. Also, We Cry Together. What this album's version of Kim by Eminem.
Yeah.
Closest thing. It gives that, whole unsettly vibe to it.
Hard to listen to, kind of, the first time,
Yeah, it's it's just, they really like the F word in that song.
Yeah, I remember, because I was listening to that album in class, because I was listening to the day it came out, and that came on, and I was like, oh my God, I'm trying to do math.
It's dang, I'm trying to do math. Very angry.
Yeah.
I also want to get a chance to talk about Count Me Out, which was a surprisingly, good beginning to the Mr. Morale side of the album, because it starts with the Big Steppers and goes to Mr. Morale. Starts out that side of the album very, very well. I felt the last 45 seconds leave the listener feeling very hopeful for Kendrick, where he says, this is me and I'm blessed. He's starting that process of self-acceptance, which is very important with the themes of therapy that, go in and out of this album as you listen to it. Also wanted to get a chance to speak on Silent Hill with Kodak Black. What do you think about Kodak Black being on this album?
I don't know. I think it was decent. I think it was a weird choice though. Definitely.
That's what I was thinking. Like, it
But-
feels like Kodak's like out of his league here.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was kind of an odd choice putting him
Yeah.
on.
It's
I
like
think that was-
combining Limp Bizkit and the Beatles.
Yeah, I think that's one of like the lesser features on the
Mhm.
album as a whole.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a high bar though, because the features on this were really good. But
Yeah,
I
That-
think it was a weird idea.
to put him on.
Yeah.
Yeah, just although if we're talking about like top Kodak Black verses though, like his feature on this was really good
It
for
was really
Kodak
good.
Black verse.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It's really good.
So Savior, with the Baby Keem interlude to begin with, where kind of Keem just talks about like growing up in the hood and stuff, kind of like mirroring that that childhood experience with Kendrick. But then also Kendrick going into saying that him and all these other like rappers that you may look up to, they shouldn't be your savior because they have their own like issues because they're not perfect either, because they're not like Jesus. I think is like, because a lot of him, like the imagery in this album is personifying like him into God. Like, I mean, if you see his like crown of thorns he
On
wears
the
and
album
stuff,
cover.
yeah, and but he performs with it on too.
Yeah, people were mad about that.
Yeah, because wasn't he bleeding? I think he's like bleeding out of his face.
I
'cause
don't
of it.
remember that, but I just know people were like, "You can't do that, Kendrick."
Yeah, people
And-
were upset about that for some
Yeah.
reason, but it's really just kind of to point out the irony in that situation, I
Mhm.
think. Anti-Diaries, the most homophobic homosexual song I've ever heard in my entire life. He's always saying like what is it, my uncle no, it's my auntie is a man now.
Yeah,
But then he keeps
that's right.
saying she, which kind of,
Yeah.
defeats the purpose. Like,
pronoun
you think
thing.
he would be like, a little bit more conscious about this. And he says the F slur throughout the song.
Yeah.
But I mean, I do kind of like how he uses it as like a way to talk about, like, to start the conversation, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, he really starts to get things like he has to talk about how that can be just a word, and it was just a word, and now recently has kind of become more of an issue socially. And he kind of just talks about how, like, he wants to take the power away from it, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
Also, that song has no replay value at
Yeah,
all.
that is true.
It's not going on any of my playlists, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Like, no reason to listen to that song other than when you're listening to the album by itself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mother Sober with Beth Gibbons from Portishead. That was a weird feature. I was not expecting her
I
to be
don't
on
even.
that.
I don't think I remember that song either. Like,
It's like it's the second to last song on the album. It's got that
Okay.
like very slow, like, I wish I could be anybody but myself kind of meaning.
okay.
Kendrick opens up about him being like sexually assaulted as a child, his relationship with his mother on that song. Like, it's very, very deep. And also it kind of speaks on how like he struggled to find self-acceptance. He talks about how like you haven't really processed grief until you've done it sober, which I think is important for him. Like, he finally, like, he'd been coping and self-medicating with different substances, and now that he's gotten sober, he can like really try to come to terms with what happened,
Yeah.
which I think is very important.
You can't
for-
avoid all
Mhm.
of the pain and trauma that you've gone through in your
Mhm.
life.
Like, that's what he's trying to like get past in this album, and he's finally realized like how to do that. And then my personal favorite song on the album, the ending track, Mirror. I chose me, I'm sorry. That's the main line for that song.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, it's
I
just
don't remember that. I
feel-
mean, I do, but I don't. I don't know. Like,
I don't know. I just felt like it really kind of showed how Kendrick has finally like he started from an immature place, and then he's finally reached that like level of maturity where he understands like
yeah,
his trauma and can move on. Like, he's accepted himself. It's really quite beautiful, I think.
yeah.
But overall, this album I did not like at first. I'll have to pop up right now. I got this meme I made a long time ago. It went viral on Twitter. Well, not viral. It's like a couple thousand likes, but nothing big. Anyways, initially I thought that he had kind of fallen off. I gave this album a 6 out of 10 when I first listened, but mentally, I feel like you have to be in a state where you can accept your own flaws in order to listen to this album, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, you have to like be ready for help for it to speak to you the way it's supposed to.
It's more of an emotional album, I think,
Uh-huh.
and that might be a turnoff for some people. But I do
Mhm.
think it's also a good thing, you know.
Yeah.
It's deeper than just like, you know.
It's not a very shallow album by any means.
I mean, none of his albums really are, but
Mm-hmm.
I think this one has less like turn on in the background,
Mm-hmm.
you know, value, which is a good and a bad thing, I
Mm-hmm.
think, at the same time. But
Yeah, definitely. It's also like, I don't know, it really doesn't sound like any other body of work that I've heard that he's made. Like, it doesn't sound like Good Kid, Mad City. It doesn't sound like Damn. It definitely doesn't sound like T-Pab.
yeah,
So it's just kind of like, this is a new era of Kendrick. This is who he is now, I guess. I
yeah.
don't really know how to describe it other than that. But now for the number rating. I'm going to give my personal 1 to 10 rating, and then Ryan here will give his.
Yes, sir.
So I think that this album has changed, in my opinion, from a 6 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10.
8.
It's definitely up there for this year's for the top releases, in my opinion. It's not on top, unfortunately. You know, Earl Sweatshirt dropped Sick. And don't forget about Black Thought, Danger Mouse with Cheat Codes. They just came out quite recently. But what did you think?
So, I do love Kendrick
Mm-hmm.
a lot, but there's like, the one thing I don't like that he does a lot is when he stops rapping, starts like talking on his songs. He does this.
He does do that
a
throughout.
decent amount on this album, which is something I kind of like don't like a lot. But I think I'd say I give this a 7 or an 8, probably. Probably
7 or an 8?
I think an 8.
Closer to an 8?
Probably an 8, yeah, probably just an 8. But that is a thing I didn't like about this, and there were like 1 or 2 kind of smelly songs on here. But I think
Yeah, no,
most of it's a pretty solid track list.
Yeah, I think
be
for the
honest.
most part, like, if we're looking at, like, you got 18 songs, you got, like, what, 3 or 4 misses in there?
Yeah,
like,
that's a really good banger to miss.
Like, that's a good ratio right there,
Yeah.
I think. Like, other than, and those songs that aren't that good on the album still kind of speak for the rest of the album itself. I think, like, aside from Rich Interlude and Worldwide Steppers, which I think could probably have been omitted from the track list completely and would have made a better album, that probably would have bumped it up to a 9, if I was being completely honest here.
Yeah.
But, yeah, 8 out of 10. That's what we're
I'm
agreeing
glad
on.
it was good, too, because the hype around this, because he hadn't dropped in, like, what, 5 years?
Yeah, no, it
something
was
like
5
that.
year, I believe,
Okay.
since Damn.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, that would have really
Or
sucked.
maybe
if it was just
6.
not good.
Maybe 6 year. I'm trying to think. Was it 2017 that he dropped last? I thought it was 17.
I don't remember. Yeah, I think it was 16 or 17.
Okay, yeah,
I
it's
think.
one of those things.
Okay, well, we got to go
Well,
now.
anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Bye-bye.